Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another new video. Today we are in Budgie, not awesome or DWM or anything else, just because this is not a Linux video. Instead, what I want to take a look at today is how I make a video. This is the type of thing that's been requested quite a bit on the channel, which I get to an extent. I mean, as someone who makes videos, I'm reasonably interested in the process that other people are using. But yeah, so anyways, let's go ahead and do that, and we'll start here, where most of my videos start. This is a website called Airtable, and it's just sort of a way to keep things organized. You can see here, there's a pretty clear record of all of the videos that I've uploaded this year. I started using Airtable this year to try to keep track of videos, and if I click on one of these videos here, I've got the title, the status of it, the upload date, a link to it, and a sort of checklist that I can check as I'm going through the video, or going through the process of creating the video. Now, certainly not every video idea ends up here immediately. I'm pretty sure I have a notes here with some potential YouTube videos that I had an idea about one time or another, but the idea is that if a video is anywhere close to maybe ever being put on my YouTube channel, I'll put it here just so that I can keep track of it and through the process. There's plenty of videos here that actually I probably won't ever make, but the idea here is, you can see it's broken down pretty easily here, as I've got all the videos that are currently in progress just sort of up here at the top. In progress really just means I've done something with it. For example, these two videos here, these are video essays, no spoilers, but I've written a good portion of the script, so they're ready to go. Actually, this video here, I've made a thumbnail for this video, and now I'm recording this video, so I can go ahead and move that to in progress, just so I can sort of keep track of it. And then I've got another category just for videos that are planned that I may or may not do at some point. Any idea I had that sort of made it past the just jotting it down in a markdown document. And then finally at the bottom, I've just got a record of all the videos that I've uploaded so far this year, with links and thumbnails and stuff added so that I can find info about it really quickly if I need to. One of the cool things about Airtable actually too is that if you're interested, I don't actually currently do it anymore. You can actually go in here and create really, really powerful automations that will pull this data I've added, thumbnails and YouTube links, and automatically send tweets, send Facebook posts when the videos go live and things like that. So as soon as I would change the video status to live, it would send a tweet, or even just as soon as I hit the upload date, if I put in the upload date ahead of time, it'll send a tweet. This is a really, really cool tool for staying organized, so it seemed like probably the best way to go about making this video is just sort of go through the checklist as I would if I was making a video. The first item of which is, of course, a script. A good portion of my videos are not scripted in any way. Obviously, I'll take some notes or something, some points that I want to hit in a video, but more than I want to admit, I go into completely blind with no idea what the video is going to be, and I just end up having to cut down a hour-and-a-half long screen recording into a 20-minute, 15-minute video. But occasionally I do write actual scripts. For example, a couple of these videos essays I'm working on here. Another great example is this here, a video essay about Avatar: The Last Airbender. That has a legitimate script, and the way that works is actually pretty cool. There's a lot of different ways that you can go about writing a screenplay, obviously. I don't think that's a surprising thought to anyone, but my personal favorite way is using a screenplay format called Fountain. And actually, if you were to just go to fountain.io, you can actually get a pretty good look at all sorts of stuff about the language. You can get resources if you want to develop an app, but one of the coolest things you can do is they have a section on their website that is effectively a pretty up-to-date and exhaustive list of all the different applications that you can use to edit this Fountain text format. That is because Fountain is essentially just a plain text format. Let me actually come in here and open up a script. If I were to go into my archives here, if I come in here, you can see I have a file right here just called azula.fountain, and I can open this up in any app I want. I could open this up in, let's say, VS Code. And hey, look at that, we've got a nice little script, and you can see it's sort of formatted. It has syntax highlighting, all that kind of thing. And actually in VS Code, just so I mention it, there actually is a pretty cool Fountain plugin. I think it's called Better Fountain or something. As soon as you open up a Fountain script in VS Code, it will automatically tell you can install this extension. And actually you can really easily just, let's see here, what am I looking for? Create a preview of the script. Preview. Yeah, here we go. You can see here now, this is a screenplay formatted exactly the way that it would be if you were, you know, just sneaking into Hollywood and stealing a script from the arms of whatever studio head's got a script. But I can come in here and let's say, hey, it's a character, and they're going to have a bit of dialogue here. And I can, you know, maybe add like a little action heading here. You know, I could add a transition. I can just fill out a screenplay and get a nice live preview of it. That's a pretty cool extension. Now, of course, on Windows and especially on macOS, there actually are full-fledged apps that just edit this particular plain text format. Slugline is my personal favorite. I used it all the time when I used macOS a lot, but there's no need to do that. It's a plain text format. You can edit it in Notepad. You can edit it in Gedit, you can edit it in TextEdit on macOS. I personally, of course, just use Vim. Vim is just about the best text editor I think I've ever found, and it's really easy to add some syntax highlighting here. I did a video about my Vim RC one time where I mentioned how to do that. I'll add a card to it, and then once I'm done writing the script, all I need to do is convert it to a PDF, which of course is easy to do. I got a PDF version of it right here. There's a couple of different ways to do that. You can pretty easily just Google like Fountain to PDF converter. My personal favorite is one called After Writing, and you can literally just come in here and let's load a file. Here, look, I got the script for the movie Big Fish. I open that up, and immediately if I hit preview, I got a nice PDF I can download. You can also come in here and there's settings. You can change the font weight of the headings and stuff. The reason that I like this particular tool for doing it is because they make it available to just actually download this web app and keep it offline. So you can, you know, keep it on your computer somewhere, put it on a USB, whatever you want to do. You don't actually have to be connected to the internet to do it. There also is a sort of command line tool built in here somewhere. You can look into it more. I'm pretty sure there's a GitHub page here for this particular web app, but this works pretty well for me when I do write a script. Once the script is done, of course, probably the next thing to do is to go ahead and, well, record the video, which in my case almost always means a screen cap. If you're doing a screen recording, really, despite what anyone will tell you, OBS is the way to go. There's really not a better tool for the job. Not necessarily because there aren't faster tools, maybe more efficient tools for just pulling an actual screen recording, but OBS comes with everything you could need to do a screen recording and live streaming all built in. You know, for example, here I've got, I'm doing a live recording right now over my mic. The mic that I use is the Audio-Technica A2020, I think is what it's called, by the way. Pretty great mic. Don't buy a fucking Blue Yeti. There's plenty of other great mics out there. This is a good one. I think it's somewhere around $100. But anyways, I've got a live audio feed here. I can come in and add filters to it if I want to add a compressor so that I can't clip the audio out. I could add a noise gate if I can guess pretty reasonably what the lowest level of my dialogue is going to be. That way I can just cut out any extra noise that's there. You know, these are the kind of things that I like to do in post, just because it's a bit easier that way, but OBS comes with all those tools built right in. So let's just quickly, while I'm live here, take a look at my particular OBS setup. Actually, before we do that, I should go ahead and open up NVIDIA settings, because one of the odd things about the way that I record videos is that I record them not only at 4K, which is just, I prefer to upload at 4K rather than 1080. It's 2021 now. But also I recorded a 2:1 aspect ratio, which can be very, very tricky to actually achieve on Windows or macOS. It's hard to set a custom resolution. Now, if you're not using a GPU, there is a tool called XR&R that works really, really well for this. I've got a video that I'll add a card to that shows you exactly how to do the same thing. But if you're using an NVIDIA GPU, and I assume if you're using an AMD GPU on Linux, there is an equivalent tool that'll get pretty close. All you really need to do is come in here, come to Advanced, and then you can type in literally whatever resolution you want for the monitor. The only thing that you need to watch out for is you want the viewport in and the panning to be set to the actual resolution that you want to record at, but the viewport out needs to stay at the resolution that your monitor natively supports. Once that is all set up, we can then go over into OBS. Of course, really, there's not too much complex stuff that you need to do here. You just want to come down to video and set your resolution. You can type in whatever resolution you want. Again, 4096 by 2048. Also, I'm always going to record at 24 FPS rather than 60 or anything else. And then in terms of output, all I really do is come over to Simple, set this to MOV, and make sure I'm using the hardware NVENC encoder. Now, NVENC is, of course, NVIDIA's built-in GPU encoder that lets you offload the encoding from the CPU onto the GPU, which, generally speaking, just is a good idea. I mean, your GPU is, generally speaking, going to be less utilized than the CPU. There are examples where that doesn't make sense. For example, here you can see the streaming encoder is set to use software. The reason for that, I did a Skyrim live stream not that long ago. You may have seen it. It was choppy as hell. The frame rate sucked. And that was because I was using a crappy, not the best GPU in the world. And it was pulling double duty, trying to encode a live stream and run a video game at the same time. And the results weren't the best. You can, of course, get way more complex with the OBS settings, but this is about as complicated as it needs to be to get a decent quality recording that you can then turn into a video. And that, of course, leads right into the next part of the process, which is editing the video. But before we can jump straight into Premiere, I'm going to do just a little bit of organization and setup. This is the original screen recording that I just finished while I was over on Linux. In case you're curious as to how I got this over here, there's a few different ways you can move files between Arch Linux and Windows. I believe if you format a drive as exFAT, Windows and Arch can both read those. What I do is I've actually got a little server that's a Plex server and a file server, and I just drop the files on there before I reboot using either FileZilla is the GUI app that you can use to do it on Arch Linux, or you can just do SFTP transfer straight on the command line. And then there's a handy little tool called WinSCP that lets you transfer files from a Linux server straight onto Windows. So it's super easy to get set up. And then what I'm going to do is just create a little folder structure to organize this project. So I like to do that in a terminal. So we'll go ahead and open up, we'll do PowerShell here. You could also do this with like a Linux subsystem for Windows, whatever you want. Despite what Linus will tell you, there are some things that are still a bit faster to do on the command line.
There are people that are willing to take you up on the challenge of being able to complete operations faster in a command line than you can in a GUI.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and CD into the desktop, and right here I want to make a new folder, and I'll call this, we'll say, video creation, something like that. CD into that folder, and then what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to make a new directory. We're going to call it A-roll, CD into that A-roll folder. We're going to make new directories called image, motion, image, motion, and audio. Oh, I forgot. PowerShell is weird. You would be able to do that on a normal command line, but not on PowerShell. So you make dir image, make dir motion, make dir audio, CD one level out. You want to copy A-roll, put it in another folder called B-roll, and then I'm just going to make a directory called thumb and make a directory called project.
I think those people would be looking for intentionally loaded situations.
Well,
like
yeah, sure. I mean, if you have to copy 8,000 files or something like that, yeah, sure.
Really quickly and easily, faster than I could probably do by clicking in the Finder. I've got a folder to drop my projects in, folder for the thumbnail, and then a A-roll and a B-roll folder all set up with individual folders for images, motion, and audio. So I'll go ahead and grab that original, drop it right into the A-roll folder, and then we can get into what is probably the smartest thing I ever did, which was just set up a little branding folder for all of the things that I want to use. And what I want to grab that I use for every YouTube video is I've got a little comment copied and pasted set up for me to put the attribution for whatever audio I might be using or whatever in there. And then if I go into this template folder, I have a Premiere Pro template already set up. And what this has is it already has all of the assets that I'm going to want imported other than the A-roll and B-roll for this particular project. And it's got the windows all set up the way that I like it. We'll get there in just a second. This is what we got to work with. One video, and the audio is embedded in it. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is clean up this audio. There's a whole bunch of tools you could use. You could use Audacity or Tenacity. You could use you could use Logic. There's a ton of tools. I'm familiar with the Adobe suite, I'm also fairly familiar with Audacity, or, you know, whatever fork that you want to use now. So I've got no problem using that either. But since I've got Audacity here along with Premiere Pro, I just use that. The two work just about as well. I'm not doing anything too terribly complicated. So I'm going to go ahead and drop in this video here. And what it's going to do is automatically just pull the audio straight out of the video. All right, so you can see all of our audio is pretty quiet here. And what I'm going to do is just start to turn up the amplitude quite a bit. And here's what you're going to watch. You can see right here, this peak right here is getting pretty close to 0. 0 is right here at the very top, and that's the point when audio is going to clip and cut off and kind of ruin everybody's fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a point where I can squash all of these high peaks, which if we look pretty closely is going to be about negative 15 decibels. So I'm going to go ahead, come up here, we're going to do Effect, Amplitude and Compression, Hard Limiter. And then what I'll do is I will literally just come in here and set the hard limiter to negative 15. And what that's going to do is just squash down those high peaks. This is effectively the same thing that a compressor would do if you were using one live. I'm just doing it after the fact. And normally, what I like to do is do this a couple of times. So I'm going to drag this up again to the point where we can probably squash all these down to, let's say, negative 3 decibels here. So amplitude and compression, hard limiter. We're going to set that to about negative 3, and we'll go ahead and crank that out. And that is probably going to be good. What I'm looking for is I want to basically even this out. I don't want the super low parts to be super quiet while the super loud parts are super loud. I want to get it as even as I can. And the issue is, despite the fact that I have been technically making YouTube videos for over a decade, I am not a very good narrator in the sense that my voice has basically no consistency whatsoever. It's just something that I've noticed about the way that I talk. Inflection changes all the time. It's a little bit of a challenge, but luckily not too difficult to fix. So I'm going to throw on a straight up noise gate. And what that's going to do is we're going to specify basically a decibel, and everything below that point is going to get cut off. So what we need to do is try to isolate what decibel range that is going to be. So this window right here, amplitude statistics, we're going to come up to window, and you want to pull up amplitude statistics. The other thing that's going to be helpful is this little part of the graph right here. I believe that is called the spectral frequency display. This is the button you use to toggle that on and off, and I'll show you how it works in just a second. Anyways, once you have the amplitude statistics popped up, you're going to go ahead and hit scan for the track. It's going to take just a bit, and it's basically going to give us a value to work with. So average RMS amplitude is what we're looking at here. I don't quite know how to explain exactly what's going on here. This is not my area of expertise, but what I'm viewing this as is a little bit above the point where I'm going to want to set the noise gate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to Effect. I'm going to do Amplitude and Compression, Dynamics, and this value is going to be negative 26 decibels. So I'm going to try and set it at negative 32 decibels. If I hit this button right up here, what I can do is I can pull up a preview, and I'm going to make both of these quite large. And if we zoom in on part of the audio, what this spectral frequency map is showing us is basically the noise gate. All of the parts where it's pure black are the points in which there is going to be no noise cut out. All of the parts where it's sort of warbly, purplish hues and grays and grainy, that's where there's going to be some sound. So ideally what we're going to have is just sort of hard ons and offs, as little of the purplish as possible, and we want more of the red hot and the yellow colors here, which are going to be our actual speech. Now you do need to be careful with this, because if you do set this decibel value too high, you're going to be cutting off the lower frequencies in your speech. So play it back a couple of times. You maybe don't need to listen to the entire thing through, but listen to it thoroughly enough that you're not screwing anything up. And then at that point, you can go ahead and just hit apply, and then we're good to go ahead and export now. So I'm going to do File, Export, Export File, and then if we come in here, we now have a clean audio track to deal with, and we're all set. So then what I'm going to do here is we can go ahead and close out of Audition, and finally we can talk about my NLE of choice, which is Premiere. I'm going to go ahead and open up that template project that we created. All right, so this is Adobe Premiere Pro here. The thing that I like about Premiere in particular is really actually sort of unique. to Premiere. The only other NLE I know that functions sort of like this is Avid, actually, which no one uses. And what I'm really talking about here is I can grab any panel in Premiere and just move it around wherever I want. And this is incredibly powerful. A lot of times people talk about how, well, having multiple monitors isn't very productive. And I actually agree with that. I think that's a good take. The one area where that is absolutely not true is when it comes to video editing. So for example, I've got 3 monitors in front of me and all 3 of them are being utilized. So this is my main monitor. I've got a little video preview window over here. I've got a timeline over here. I've got a source clip where I can open up clips and preview them, and then some audio and just the tools over here. On the monitor to my left, I have what is perhaps my favorite way to edit, which is just to open up a ton of bins. So you can see here, I've got bins for sound effects that I like to use, bins for some of the standard audio clips that I use, in cards and intros already supported, some transitional type ambience clips. And if I go ahead and open up my folders here, I can go ahead and I can have some A-roll in here now, since I'm ready for it. So now we're good to go ahead and start editing. I'm gonna have these bins all open to the side. Oh, and then of course on the monitor to my right, I totally forgot to mention, I have all of the effects controls, all of the effects that I need, all of that stuff all ready to go. So I can access basically everything I would need to look at a glance and just go through and cut video. What I wanna do is I'm gonna grab the A-roll, as in the footage, drop that on, keep existing settings, and then I'm going to go ahead and drag on the audio that we just cleaned up. So then what you can see is basically we have 2 different forms of audio. One is significantly louder and cleaned up. So what I'll do is I'm going to right click right here, and I'm going to go ahead and unlink these, delete this first audio track, drag this second one up, make sure they're all lined up at the end. They're all shot at the same frame rate and everything. We're going to go ahead and just click link. And now we have basically just replaced the audio. These are now one individual clip. Here's where the fun starts. There are a lot of different ways to edit footage. You could sort of do a cut, delete that, move it over, and then, okay, now we want to cut out a bit here, do another cut, delete, move it over. And that's the way that sort of some of these not so great video editors actually expect you to function. Premiere does not work that way. What we're going to take a look at is up here in the keyboard shortcuts. I want to show you what are basically 2 of the best tools you can use if you're editing just sort of a roll like this. So I'm going to go up to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts, and if I come and look at my Q key, what I am looking for here are what are called the ripple trim tools, and it's going to ripple trim to the beginning of the playhead or to the end of the playhead, and then map to the R key. I have just a simple add edit tool. So if I come here, I hit R, it's just going to split the clip essentially. And the best way to show you what the ripple edits do is, let's say right here is the beginning of my clip. What I'm going to do is, this is the beginning of our actual video. I'm going to hit Q, and what that's going to do is going to remove all of the stuff that's not going to be part of the edit anymore, all the way up until where our playhead was. So for example, if I split again and I do the exact same thing, all of this in front of the playhead, we're saying that's nonsense. I hit Q, it goes away. And we could do the same thing. We can come to the end of the video, hey, video's over, and just reverse it. We're hitting W now, and we're going to trim off the end of the video. This is far and away, I think, the best way to edit video. What I'm going to do is, I'm just going to come through and I'm going to basically play back the video and cut out, any mistakes that I've made, any big gaps in silence, anything like that. I'm going to be coming through, cut out what I need to cut out. You can also do Shift Delete to delete without leaving a space in between anything. And that's basically how it works. I come through, cut out all the silence, cut out all the, jokes that aren't funny, all the standing around, any points where I'm just sitting around looking at something on my phone instead of actually recording the video. And at some point, I'll get to a video that is actually usable. And that's about it for the editing process as far as my videos are concerned. My videos are not very complex to edit. Now, certainly I have done some more complicated edits, but the typical sort of screen recording video is not that hard. The only other thing that I'll do is we'll drag on an intro here. I'm going to have to re-render this at the different resolution, but we'll drag on the intro, get that all lined up, and then I'll throw some audio below it. If we make this a little bit bigger, you can do, I think it's Alt. If you hold down, you can click and create a keyframe, or maybe it's Control. Yeah, Control. You can create a keyframe, and we can just sort of have the audio fade in, fade out when we need to. The one interesting thing about the in card for my video, if you look at the very beginning, this first bit is actually rendered with transparency. So if I drag this on top of the footage, this is something you can do with ProRes and I think also DNx HD. If we watch, what's happening is it's basically going to slowly fade in on top of the image. So I just want to make sure there's a little bit of slack under the video as we're fading out in the end. And then again, you know, you just sort of come in with the audio, click a couple of times, and hey, there we go, we're fading out. That's about it. It's a little more complicated than that, of course, but it's a very annoying, you know, sort of just monotonous process. But it's not hard if you have the tools to make it easy. The very last thing that we're going to do is create a thumbnail, which in this case, I am pretty sure I have already done. There's a lot of different ways you can design a thumbnail. You can use Photoshop, you can use GIMP. I'm very familiar with Adobe After Effects because I spent so much time doing motion graphics. So honestly, I spend a lot of time designing still images. Thumbnails certainly included in that category in After Effects, and then just exporting as a JPEG. So for example here, I meant to first record this video a while ago, so I have actually gone ahead and created a thumbnail. I literally just need to change the text here just a little bit. And I am pretty happy with the results of that. Go ahead and come up to composition, save frame as file, make sure we click the best settings, and I'm gonna save it as a JPEG sequence. Go ahead and hit render. That is a thumbnail. Now in terms of how I make my thumbnails, yeah, I mean, my thumbnails are sort of unique. I've said before, I've got a little bit of a background as a motion graphics designer. What I personally think is very important in thumbnails in terms of like creating thumbnails for a YouTube channel is something that is identifiable. What I've been doing for a while is I've got this little sidebar that I created in After Effects a while back. That's basically just, you know, the logo that I use and a little colored bar. Originally, it was just sort of this red bar that was on every video. As I've sort of gone on making videos, I like to focus more on sort of trying to make them have their own unique style and just sort of be vaguely identifiable with my channel. So the colors are less important to me and more just the shape and the design. But yeah, the idea is someone would see the thumbnail and go, hey, I know what that video is about. That video is about in this case, Void Linux. And then if they're familiar with my channel, they'll, you know, sort of recognize the shape, be like, oh, okay, hey, I know it's Mac making a video about whatever. And that way, hey, if somebody sees a video that I like, they probably saw the thumbnail, and there's an immediately identifiable thing that lets them know, hey, this is another video that guy made, and maybe I should check that one. Or if you didn't like the video, you know, to stay away. Whatever, that's the thing about branding, is you're doing a good job. That's the only thing I know about making thumbnails. But I think that is going to be it for this video. For all the people asking, I hope that was what you were looking for. Hey, you know, feel free to use or steal any of those tips or tricks and make yourself a YouTube channel, and we'll all grow them together. Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you in the next video, where I'm going to rent out a concert and intentionally overcrowd it, and then murder half a dozen people in the audience.